The RV Show USA. Start living the RV dream today.
And welcome back to the channel, everybody, and to my virtual campfire. Thank you for joining me today. All right, let's jump right into it. Here's the situation. You have a problem RV, or you're dealing with a problem with your RV's manufacturer. It's not a total loss or a situation where you want the manufacturer to buy the RV back. It may just be a case of something much smaller, maybe from $5,000 to $10,000. It's too much money for you to just walk away from, but it's not a big enough amount to go to the expense of hiring a lawyer. So what do you do? What do you do when money's tight and you know you're being taken advantage of by a dishonest dealer or manufacturer? Well, that's just one of the topics I recently spoke with a legal expert about. Here's a part of that interview with badass RV lemon lawyer Ron Burdge, who always has great advice for every RV owner. I want you to summarize, if you would, the 2 or 3 most important things that me, as a consumer that just purchased a new RV, what do I need to do to protect myself during the warranty period and beyond? What are the 2 or 3 things that I really need to do this, don't do that?
Okay, that's pretty easy. A couple of things to bear in mind. First of all, if you have a problem that you notice with the RV, then don't buy it. If you get them telling you, don't worry, you can bring it back and we'll work on it, take it on a test trip and all that jazz, that's just another stall game. You have to get in line. Watch out for that, buying it in the first place. Once you buy it and you see a problem, make an appointment to get it back in and arrive on time and on the date that you're supposed to. Then leave it there. Make a note. Have a little notepad. Those things. In fact, I've got one over there. Basically, it's just a pocket notepad with a spiral bind on it. You should have one of those in your RV. And every time you have something happen, open it up, make a note, date, time, what it was, and any particular circumstance. And every time you take it into the dealer, make another note of it. And before you take it into the dealer, write out a list of anything and everything that is not right. Make a copy of that list, leave it at home, and give that list to the serviceman when you go in to check in. And by the way, when you take your RV into the shop, that satchel of all the manuals and everything that's in there when you got it, take that out and leave it at home, okay? You want to have access to that in case something happens to the RV and you don't have it in your hands. So now I want to
ask you, I want to go back to what you had said about don't take possession of the RV if things aren't working. But at the same time, the shakedown trip, as a lot of people call them, the very first initial trip, road trip, things do happen. Now, are you saying that there shouldn't be anything happen on a shakedown trip, or at least before you take possession, make sure the slide carefully and don't, jam up and the air conditioner works properly, and whatever the things happen. You're saying that, right? Do a proper final walkthrough.
Yeah, I'm saying do a careful walkthrough before you sign anything to buy it. Make a list and tell them when they fix it to call you and you'll come back. If once you buy it, then you do your walkthrough, do the exact same thing. Make a list of anything whatsoever. That's just being cautious. Go on your shakedown trip, if you want to call it that. Go on the first trip and make notes of anything and everything. There's going to be some things that will happen that you didn't notice, or that may not have even been bad at the time you looked at it at first or did your walkthrough. That's okay. Then take it back to the dealer as soon as you can, give them the list of things, and send your letter and make it by certified mail when you send it to the factory, so that they've got a copy of what it is that you're complaining about when you are taking it into the dealer as well. And part of the reason for that, people at the factories, they pay attention to a couple of things. They pay attention to lawyers. That's just a fact of life. They also pay attention to certified mail letters that come in from owners. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because they don't hardly get them. When they get one of those, they know that there's something serious to be dealt with. Well, if you've got a problem with an RV, you want to be the squeaky wheel.
In terms of hearing back from a manufacturer, things have obviously slowed down at the manufacturing level since the COVID times. And I don't know if the people in the warranty department are, only working a few days a week. How much time should I give the manufacturer in order to get back with me as a consumer? I mean, a week, a month?
Get back with you in response to what, a letter or a phone call?
Yeah. I write a letter and say, look, I've got these issues. I'm dropping my RV back off at such and such a place, and I'd like you to communicate with me that you received this letter and update me on any units, any of these things that I might be affected by, that of.
Sure. Don't give them more than a week. They don't need a week to get to you. And also, most of the factories now, their warranty departments, they're back up. So there's no real excuse there for not getting back to you and taking care of you and finding out where you are. Any manufacturer that doesn't respond to a consumer complaint within a week is looking for trouble.
For many people, when they have an issue and they say, I'm going to sue, I'm going to go to my lawyer. A typical family practice lawyer is not the same as someone that specializes, if you will, focuses on RV lemon law. Give me the case, if you will, not necessarily a sales pitch, but why can't I just go to my lawyer and have them write a dirty letter? I mean, people respond to lawyers, don't they?
They do respond to lawyers typically, but the problem is the RV industry knows the lawyers that they hear from often. And if you aren't one of those lawyers, then as far as they're concerned, they'll get to you when they get to you. The reality of it is that the lawyers who handle RV cases, there are not that many of them, first of all, and there's very, very few that don't do anything but that, extremely few. They know us, and we know them, and they know that. So they're going to be attentive to that particular kind of a complaint. And also, statistically, there have actually been some studies done on using lawyers and not using lawyers. And in the typical case, the consumer ends up with more money in their pocket when they've got a lawyer fighting to get it there for them.
It would seem like to me that if your firm is that busy, you're not going to take something on unless there's a pretty good chance that you're going to win. I mean, I would think you're not just going to take on something just to stay busy.
No, you're right. We don't. We've got parameters that we use on whether or not we'll take a case in. And we're so busy right now, we've adjusted those parameters somewhat a little tighter. But the real problem is there's a lot of people out there who have cheaper RVs. And by that, I mean RVs that cost under 50 grand. And those RVs and those people, they have real problems because it's not in their mind cost effective to get a lawyer involved. And yet they are the ones who have bought what are probably the worst built RVs out there.
Because they're so inexpensive. And a couple of months ago, you had mentioned something about small claims court, and that might be an option for people before they go to the big guns, to go to the Burdge law firm. That small claims court, talk about that a little bit, because if I can just go to my local small claims court for a $5,000 or $10,000 issue, that may be a better option for me than hiring a lawyer.
Absolutely, it may be, especially if that's all you really have. A problem that really needs 5 or 10, 15. There are some small claims courts that go up to $25,000. Well, if you've got one of these less expensive RVs, that may be the exact place you need to go because you get to handle it by yourself. You just have to be prepared to do that. But you also don't have a jury. You end up with a judge, the judge who only hears small claims cases. So you're going to have a person who's going to be more sympathetic to you than you might have in a normal legal situation. And you're going to get a faster result. And the small claims court, a lot of these manufacturers, they won't even show up on time.
That's what I was going to say. It sounds like to me, they're saying, you know what, it's cheaper to write a $10,000 or $15,000 check than it is for us to send the big guns down to XYZ city, pay for the plane ticket, hotel expenses and all that. And we're probably going to lose anyway. So just write the people a check.
Yeah. But the problem with it is they wait as long as they can before writing the check. I've seen it time and time again. And in fact, one of the early cases I had was an RV that I think cost around $30,000. And we've had a number of those along the way in life, of course. And in those cases, the factory does as little as humanly possible. They do absolutely nothing that they can avoid. And then when it gets on the literal courthouse steps, then they always send a check and settle.
You know, Ron is so good and so knowledgeable. And I love the idea of representing yourself and going to small claims court on your own. I've done it before several times, and I've always come out ahead. So if you have a smaller claim and you think it's legit, consider doing what Ron said. But go into it knowing that manufacturers they're notorious for being very slow to respond. Another thing to consider before even leaving the dealership with your new RV is to not wait to schedule your return trip to the service department. Book it now before you leave the dealership. Get it on the calendar for a date that works for you and keep your appointment. You can thank me on this one later. All right, last request before we get out of here. If you think this kind of information is valuable for RVers to know, please share it on your social media pages and in Facebook groups about RVing. The more knowledgeable RV owners are about how the system works, the happier they'll be. So give this video a like, drop a comment below, and share as always. All right, thanks so much for watching. I'm Alan Warren, the RV Wingman. Be safe, have fun, play nice, and don't leave your good manners at home.
The RV Show USA. Start living the RV dream today.